Um, well, it was really quite difficult for me because a lot of the friends that I had at the time that I went through this psychotic episode didn't know quite what to say to me, either at the time or coming back. Um, I had a boyfriend during the experience who found it really, really, really difficult. I was like 19 or 20 years old. It was all, and so was he. So it was very difficult for him to know quite what to do and whether or not I'd ever become the person again that I was when we were like first together. Um, so that fell to pieces. I wasn't sure whether or not I could speak freely with my friends about what had happened because I didn't know how they perceived mental health problems. Certainly to me, there was this divide between the sane and the insane originally. And so I assumed that that would be how they perceived it. And so it was kind of this elephant in the room that nobody would address. And the same with my family. My family found it very difficult to cope with. My mum suffers from depression, and I was too much for her to cope with at the time, and that's how I ended up being institutionalized. And I didn't feel like I'd got perhaps quite the right support from my family. And so rebuilding those family relationships, rebuilding the friendships, or developing new friendships, I found very difficult. And it was just a very gradual process, and I had to just, I guess, for me, forgive and forget, and hope that they would do the same.
It was really, really selfish and very, very, like, really didn't take into account other people at all. Like, no sense of, like, caring about what other people thought about me or how my behaviour affected other people, because I just, like, especially in, like, hypomanic bits, I kind of think, I don't care, like, I'm the only one that matters. They don't really exist. And that kind of meant I was quite, retrospectively, I can realise I was really horrible to my dad, like, quite a lot. And like, I don't think it was very easy at all to be around. I think one of the, like, one of the hardest things that I've, like, had to hear was my brother saying, quite recently, he said, I was really relieved when I found out that you were bipolar because it explained why you're like how you are. I was just like, oh, that's quite painful. Like, that's not nice to hear. And yeah, kind of, I think my brother said a couple of things like that have ended up kind of, they're quite like truthful and they're very honest, but kind of things that have made me realise that I haven't been very nice to my family. But since diagnosis and since having a lot of help, like, we're all much closer because of it.
Mostly, I think, on a relationship level, sometimes it's very hard to explain to people, I'm depressed now, but I promise you it will get better. I can't tell you when and I can't tell you how, but it will get there. And they've got to be able to stay with you and see the good in you, to stick around you during that time. Depression is a particularly tough one. It's really something that you have to find people who are going to stick with you. Your parents kind of have to, your friends don't. So when they do, I really, truly appreciate it.
My closest friends all know the sorts of things that I've gone through, and they know that although I'm much, much better than I was, perhaps things can't be perfect all the time, and so they can pick up on things when when perhaps I'm not feeling that well, and respond effectively, partly because I've been open about it.
I'm also an unusual person in that I tell anyone and everyone about it. To meet me is to know that I have bipolar disorder, simply because I felt I could go one of two ways. Either I could lie about it or hide it and get to that awkward conversation point where you sort of have to go, oh, now I have to tell them about the big thing. And that's very difficult. So the reality is, in my life, I've lost friends. They didn't know how to deal with it. Potential dates think, oh, don't go out with a crazy girl, that sort of thing. But in general, those are the people that I really don't think are worth my time. And I know that sounds very cliche, but it's also true. And as difficult as that may be, I still make a point of telling people about it and talking to them about it.
I'd like to think it makes me a more supportive person. I think obviously I've been involved in student welfare and things like that for a number of years, and I think my experiences of having anxiety and depression have really contributed to that and helped me to see that the student experience in Oxford isn't one where everyone automatically flourishes. And I think I'm having kind of seen how it can be difficult makes me more aware of when other people are having difficulties around me.